Hi guys. So today we're going to be doing group discussion number 5, the last one. I'm Abby Hahn, and I am a first-year master's student in the youth development program and getting a certificate in nonprofit and leadership.
Hello, my name is Geronta Davis, and I'm a senior here, and I'm a part of the youth development program as well.
My name is Hayden Schott. I'm doing the Ag Leadership Certificate. I'm a grad student.
Hi, my name's Alyssa. I'm also in the youth development program.
Everybody, my name is Emily. I'm in my second year's grad program, and I'm getting a certificate in extension education and focusing on youth development.
So, well, cool. This week we got to read 3 different articles talking about community or asset-based strengths and how that affects the community and the kids that we work with. So yeah, what did y'all think about the readings, or were there like bits of information that y'all picked up that y'all were like, this makes sense, or this is interesting to me?
I guess I can start with just like my first I haven't heard what asset-based community was until like I did some of the readings, and I was like, oh, okay, it sounds like something that could be really good in the communities. And then reading one of the articles, I believe it was the second one, from Clients to Citizens, I believe, and how these authors, Kressman and McKnight, kind of pointed out the approach to this theory, to this framework, and how like it it had good intentions, but they can bring a lot of negative things into like the community. For example, there's one where it says like uh a consequence is like that people in the communities with this framework, they start to believe that what their leaders are saying, like they start to feel like kind of comfortable and reliant on them, and that itself could like hinder the community. And I never really thought about that way. It was like, kind of makes me think of like unintentional consequences, where you're going with good intentions, but you get a different outcome that you weren't really looking for.
Mhm.
Yeah, Emily, I totally agree. I feel like by reading as well, it's like a asset-based community is like something you actually wasn't, looking for, like you said. So I definitely agree. And when I first thought about it, when I first heard about what is it as a community, my first thought was, okay, something that should be positive, or something that's going to bring a positive influence into the community. And I read a little bit more, and it's kind of different. It's kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can piggyback again on like the unintended consequences side because that's what I picked up, I think specifically from the second reading too. But I think just in general, like I the whole idea of asset-based community development versus other types that we've discussed, like the idea of I guess more the growth mindset, not just so much deficit based. So like
Mhm.
looking for possibilities, not problems per se. Kind of looking forward and not looking for just needs, but looking for strengths and trying to build off those as opposed to just looking for the negative side.
Mhm. I agree. I saw that especially in the third reading, just talking about social capital, and how it relates to like youth struggling with mental health in rural communities, and how the people around them, if they're like actually finding community, they don't struggle so intensely with those things, or they can be lifted up and supported in those ways. And so finding things that are already like kind of knitted into the way a community is built and getting people involved is the ways that like it can strengthen um development.
Is that the I think is that the third one that like is dealing with the mental health?
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
yeah, that like I know when I was reading that one, like I was thinking of I work with this program back home called Think Together. It deals with underprivileged kids and poor communities and stuff. And it just brought me back to like the program initially like had this uniform idea for how they're gonna try to help these kids and get them better. But the reality is not one thing works for every kid and every human specifically. Like there's different ways to go about it, and sometimes adhering to their needs and kind of going off their strengths can actually be a better way for them to be more receptive. I think that kind of went along with that with the social capital, because if they're feeling like their self-esteem is high and they're feeling better, then the results are probably going to be more positive.
Yeah. And that also connects with the first reading as well, where it just like talks about how kids used to be identified as problems to be fixed, or like delinquency. That was something that people putting on youth programs were like, we needed to make a change because there are issues with the ways that these kids are acting. But actually implementing programs where they can be based out of strength, or also just realizing that like you're not always going to get what you're anticipating, like structure wise, and just like going along with the process is so much more important, because kids can get so much more out of it than you might think or expect.
I also think that's why it's important to have like we talked a little bit about this at the beginning, or might be confusing with another class, but about when you go into programming, you have to do like a needs assessment.
Mhm.
So, you know, that kind of prevents you from assuming what the community needs or whatnot. And also like the adaptation of the programming, like things are not going to be how you think is going to be. But that's why you focus a lot during your programming to think about potential outcomes, to think about potential risk and how to manage those, to, you know, avoid situations like that where, you know, something doesn't go the way that you want it to. Now what? You know, and then also considering the differences in the needs of the actual population, you know, whether it be culturally, economically, socially, all that stuff plays a huge, huge, huge role. It kind of reminds me, so I'm taking this other like international ag development projects where we do programs internationally, and how you know, these programs are meant to like alleviate communities or help communities either eat better or do like better farming. But then, you know, they go in with good intentions and they end up like hindering the community a lot more. You know, like, oh, look here, we're gonna give you like these chickens because, you know, chickens are really good here in the United States. And the community, you know, they started selling chickens, but the programmers fail to realize that in that culture, they don't eat chickens, they eat goat, they eat meat, you know? And then, you know, you have these farmers that are trying to raise chickens, but no one's like there's no demand for them. So they're just more in debt and get more in debt and more in debt. So
Yeah.
that like kind of connected me to that one class that I'm taking too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think a little bit on like what you said, Emily and Abby. I think it's like really important, like when we talk about like how to help youth, like when we use assets that are already rooted in the environment and rooted in the community around them, then they're more likely to like know the problems that the kids in the area are going through, or know the social and economic like backgrounds from that area, because typically they're generally pretty standard for the area. And so like that helps them like be able to pinpoint those issues and like help to be able to like problem solve and like run with those a little bit easier, instead of maybe a program that comes from just like a overarching like way to solve things. Like they're not necessarily, like we've talked about in other discussions, but like they're not made to fit this one group. They're meant to like overarch and solve for everybody, not just this group. And that's just not, you can't put them into a mold. So being able to use like what's in the community and use what the people know already to help solve those issues.
Yeah, like the resources.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that I mean, I think that, and the idea, like I know Emily talked about adaptation and how important that is. Along with that, like I'm in another class, I forget, it's some ALEC class, but we were discussing like the difference in leadership abilities and how like there's relationship oriented, task oriented, and different leadership types and how they're really good leaders for youth development programs can adapt to whatever the person they're trying to lead needs. So I think that goes along with this. If you're dealing with different people with different strengths, you need to be able to adapt to that and kind of change how you're going to go about it.
Yeah. I think connecting to the first reading as well, just like seeing how youth programming has changed so much over the years is really cool. Because it used to just be based out of fun and games and getting kids off the streets and not like doing bad things. But now like what's considered high level programming is when they like offer after school help. They offer like community service opportunities, job training, leadership development, health education, and developing social skills. It's cool to see that they are coming at it with a way more holistic approach of like these are the needs, this is the way that we're going to adapt, and this is how we can like best serve these kids while they're here, and make the best use of their time. And I think like a specific example that I have is a summer camp that I work for that I've mentioned in the past couple of discussions called Mentoring Alliance, and they work with a lot of under-resourced youth in the Tyler area, but they also offer an after school program to connect with the same like mentors, the same staff and team that they have over the summer. And so those like youth adult caring relationships continue on, and kids are able to like experience mentorship and actually being invested into. And then like through our summer camp program, we're able to meet needs for finances, for kids having a meal, and then they also offer like an academic program or component of the program where the kids aren't getting caught in summer slide and they're getting the academic assistance that they need. And so I think that this is just like a specific example that I've seen in my life of a program running with like the community, or no, the asset-based community development model instead of the other models that we've been exampled or discussed, because it just does so much more. They like also focus on SEL, so social emotional learning, and so many different components. And I think that this approach just like overall helps kids way more. But yeah.
And adding on to that, Abby, was like one thing that I read that went along with what you were saying was just like we're moving away from what was called participation, where just like youth are just participating in like programs or whatnot, like within the community or whatnot. And we're moving away from just like, oh, okay, there's a kid in here, all right, let's entertain them. But no, we're having more like structural, more like more activities that are, you know, supporting their either social learning, their academia and the whatnot. And I think that also kind of like strengthens like the community in itself too. Like everybody has to play a role in that, whether it be the mentors and those that are running the program as well. Like again, if the strength of the program directly like correlates with how, you know, the outcome will be and the such. Because it kind of reminds me back of like when I think it was about summertime too. I remember I joined this after school activity, and it was just that. It was just like you showed up and you just play around, just like it was just a really long recess. But now I see there's a lot more structured youth program. Like we're really putting a lot of time and curriculum into like what we're doing with the youth and hitting those like necessary needs, because we're hearing the needs that they need, we're seeing it and we're responding to it, which is something that I'm really grateful we're moving towards that.
Yeah, Emily, when I was younger, when I was in elementary school, we had something called ACES after school. It was after school programming, but it was supposed to like help develop the kids that, you know, need extra help when it comes to homework or trying to learn math or reading and things like that. And actually it was the opposite. Like you said, it was just recess. So we actually really didn't learn as much. It was more of the people that was like in control of it, or like the workers, the employees. I feel like they was just there for the check. You know what I'm saying? Because they actually did not teach us Nothing really. We just go, they'll feed us snack, and then we'll go in the computer lab and just play video games on the computers or go outside until it was time for our parents to come pick us up. So I get exactly what you're saying based on how it was then and how it is now versus, you know, actually, feeding into the children and, getting them right as far as their education.
Yeah. I think it's from a different class, but like learning more about like just like the process of youth development and like what students actually need more. Two things come up when like we're talking about like structured activities is challenge and concentration. So to be able to actually like promote skill development and promote all these different skills that we want youth to gain, especially with either it being sports or just like fun activities, but also with schoolwork. They need those two things present to like actually be challenged. So they need a challenging work, but they also need what did I ever say? I forgot. They need challenge and what'd you say, Abby?
Concentration.
Yes, challenge and concentration. So sometimes the scale is flipped, so there's higher concentration when it's like with friends, so they get concentrated because they actually want to be there and talk with their friends, but they have low challenge. But when you flip it over down of opposite with schoolwork, so like you were saying, JD, about like schoolwork, you need higher concentration and lower levels of challenge sometimes because they need to be concentrated in that work to be able to learn it a little bit more. So yeah.
I think that that's like what's so hard about balancing in a youth program. You want the kids to learn, but you also want them to be engaged, and not all kids want to be there, especially like after school care. They just want to go home and their parents to pick them up. And so building programs that are actually interesting, actually fun and entertaining, but also teach them something is a challenge. But also I think like staffing as well for these programs, because the department that all of this is done in runs on a really low budget, and then you don't have the funds to train people well or efficiently, and then they're the ones running these programs, whether they want to see it be productive or not, or just be there to get their hours done for the week. And so I think that that's a difficult situation that we kind of run into of we want the structure of our programs to look this certain way, but you have to like find people that want to invest in this and do well, but also like not be able to like receive the pay for all of the work and effort that's put in.
Yeah, I I think all that you guys have been talking about is actually super prevalent now. I think still today. I think like there's a fine line, kind of like what Alyssa was talking about, like especially with the staffers. I think it's a lot of it. I wouldn't say falls on them, but I think they have a big responsibility. I think it's much easier to just turn the program into basically a daycare where kids just show up and they just kind of sit there and let them do their thing because it's easy to just sit there and let them do their thing. But it's hard and it's much more rewarding if you actually can be that person that engages them and can teach them and can maybe help them do whatever the goal is. I mean that's the hard work, but that's where I think the staffing comes into play. You have to find people who are motivated to want to do that and not just
Exactly.
stay there and get their hours. I mean, they want to actually help the community and be that role model.
Yeah, I remember that one article about the Parks Recreation Youth Development. That section is talking about staffing. Or was it? Yeah, staffing that works. And one of the things I mentioned was like scaffolding and the such, like, making sure you know how to facilitate and guide the youth. You want to have some structured activity, but at the same time, you also want them to like, well, that's one thing that I read too on the readings, like throughout the semester. It was just like, let the youth kind of take control, let them like facilitate too, because they'll do their own thing and they'll have fun. They'll learn a lot more if instead of like if we were just to be like, okay, we're doing this and that with like no room for them to like, do something that they want to do. This also reminds me of recently, so I'm doing the observations here at the Boys and Girls Club, and one thing I saw, so I think the group is from 5th to 7th graders, so they're on, there's a little bit of age difference, but I think there is this one program or this one like group that came in, they were going to do like a Mad Lib thing, And then some of the older students were just like, oh, like, we already do this in class. Like, why, like they didn't want to participate or whatnot. When the staffing was talking with them. And one thing I know is that she was just telling them, well, you're going to have to do it. Like, and it kind of made me think, it was like, how could we incorporate an activity where it kind of involves everybody, where it's not like school. I mean, like, you've had like a reason, like, like I understood her. She's like, we're at school for such a long time, like, why are we still doing things that are like school like related? And I think that kind of goes back into like how the staffing and how what they have lined up that day, like what activity they're doing or whatnot. Like, plays a huge role, because you don't want to just be doing something that just targets like just the young kids, often no matter what, I feel like. But also including, especially if you're gonna have different age groups, like have something where you can, that's inclusive for everybody.
I look at it as like the staff got to actually understand it's bigger than just a paycheck, Like, it's bigger than just, coming to work, getting a paycheck. Like one of you all says, it's just like you got to put in the dirty work, the hard work to actually get them to learn certain things. Then after they actually learn what they need to learn, or they can do it in a fun type of way. But after they, actually learn, what they're trying to learn as far as math, reading, English, or just, being a better person, then you can play the games. Then you can have fun. Then you can kind of like you earning your fun. You know what I'm saying? In a way.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it.
Well,
I think
like
it's-
everything I was saying. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just mine's quick. I was just saying it's way easier to blame the kid than take the blame as the staff work. Much easier to just blame the kid. He doesn't want to be here. That's their fault. It's like some of that falls on you too. That's all I was gonna say. Go for it, Alyssa.
Yeah, all I was saying, is just like when we talk about all these different things, whether it be the age range of the kids that are there or the staff like wanting to actually be there and like actually incorporate these experiences. Like just talking about like the different environments they are. So like knowing your environment. So are we in an environment where maybe I know poor communities typically have a lot more students in their after school programs just because that's the demand that they're having to chase. So like how are they able to incorporate these experiences like more than just like facilitating time before their parents can come and get them, and actually be able to like make it a productive and developmental time versus like other communities that have more resources that can allocate time and have one teacher per so many students and not just an entire room of students. And they're able to facilitate those experiences based on age range or developmental, like where they are developmentally. So just like thinking about that as well, it's like, one, how do we make it possible for every different environment, but also like how do we train the professionals to be able to facilitate those experiences, and also still want to be there when they're like having to deal with different challenges in those spaces. So
I think it all just sounds like a bunch of puzzle pieces that are very dynamic. You have to strategically place them together, but you also have to be adaptable in the process. And so
Right.
it's just a lot of things to consider, but they're all important to creating a successful, high quality program that kids would actually want to invest in.
Exactly.
yeah, I think that's the thing is like there's not one answer. It's that this all just proves that it's not based on one place. Like it has to be based on each individual facility and each individual program to make sure that it's that best experience for each one.
I think that's why leadership is very important too, especially in like programming, like someone who is, again, like not there for the paycheck. They're there because they care, and it shows a lot. Like the site coordinator that I worked with in Austin, like she loved the kids. The kids had a lot of respect for her too, and the other staff members too, because like she knew her stuff, and she also was like, and the schools that I was at in that one school, like the kids will push your buttons. If they figure out that they can like push a button, then they'll do it. But she had a very like she wasn't like a mother type figure to the kids. She was like, like who's making a goal. And I think that's the way that she said it was that, she provides any resources, any aid that the staffing needs, that work under her. And she's like, I let them like choose their own, like leadership. Like if they want to be more like a mother figure, they want to be more like a little bit stricter with the kids, like as long as like it works for them, it works for me. Because at the end of the day, like she like organizes like where the kids will go and activities, and it's so structured and it flows so well. And so having like a strong leader like that, like it shows.
Makes sense. Do you have anything else to add?
I think you guys killed it.